everyone. Welcome to Unlocking Your Freedom. We are definitely excited to be here with another episode. This episode, we have a very, very special guest, a very close friend, sister to me. Her name is Nydia Givens, and I'm just so blessed that we cross paths and all the great things that we've done together and will do together. What is one thing that you had to break free from mentally?
I would say something I had to break free from mentally, and even I feel like it was more of a spiritual bondage, as we talk about sometimes, is the feeling of low self-worth. And I know people can say, this woman's so talented and she's so amazing and she has all these great ideas, and how could she have low self-worth? Or you may even say, oh, she's beautiful, so how could she have low self-worth?
Yeah, for real.
But you know, the thing is, and I appreciate the way that people see me, but I also know that based off of certain levels of cognitive conditioning, we are sometimes hypnotized to believe things about ourselves that are not true. Other projections that other people will put onto us based off of them wanting to keep us in certain spaces of control, bondage, and not wanting us to really see our light. But somehow, yet and still, we question ourselves based off of other people. So low self-worth, you know, and that has manifested in many different ways. I was actually thinking about this earlier today. That's been through low self-esteem. I remember in high school I never wanted to wear my arms out. So like I would never be caught dead at anything like this, because it was like I felt like I was fat, and I had body dysmorphic disorder. You know, where you see yourself one way, even though the world sees you as totally different. And so, you know, that showed up in that way due to me developing at a very early age, and my family not necessarily knowing how to handle that because I was the only girl. And them just not understanding how to handle what that looks like in a female. I can do anything I want to do when I'm ready to do it, and I don't have to do it when you think that I should do it. And I think that's what I had to come into, realizing like you just have to come into yourself. Like that's what the awakening experience is you finding yourself and finding the God self when everything that you learn is trying to condition you against who you really are. So now being able to see my value more.
Yes. And I can definitely relate to that, like being in high school and having low self-esteem and going through colorism and, you know, having to be averse to color and, you know, wanted to cover my body up. And so I went through that, and I felt like my family didn't understand either. You know, nobody didn't know like what to say, or nobody tried to help me figure it out, you know, and then you kind of isolate in a sense because you feel like no one understands you. So I definitely understand that piece, but it's so crucial. And I feel like that high school like age is so detrimental in a way. Like it's so vital to our growth, you know, because those experiences is what it's kind of not what makes us, but if those experiences leads to other things that could affect us in the long run.
Sometimes you would have issues, you know, with people, you know, teasing and things like that growing up or whatever. But then I think the most of it really came from my family. You know, in high school, I was what you consider thick. But this was thick, but thick was just coming in. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, we always have different ways to terminalize our body, right? So this is when thick was starting. and it was like, but I didn't know, so I'm like, well, you know, but you know, I realized people didn't really talk about the way I looked, or you know, but it was just usually my family, and even then, so looking in hindsight, and even knowing then, like they aren't good communicators, so for them, it was a thing of maybe if we shame you into changing, then you will change. Like it's a choice. Like, well, maybe you shouldn't eat this, or you shouldn't whatever, and all of these different things. And, you know, and that led to, as you said, other things like I wouldn't eat in public, you know what I'm saying? So that for years, I would not eat in public. I would come home and eat Benji, you know what I'm saying? Or I had, even in college, I had terrible anxiety of like sitting down in public places alone, especially if I was eating. So I had a whole bunch of negative connotations around eating because, you know, growing up, when you're eating and somebody always has something to say every time you eat anything, it's like, dang, you know, like, so it's like food is the enemy, but it's not the enemy because it makes me feel good or because I'm hungry.
Right.
But, you know, and so, like I said, learning how to realize, like, even as an adult, like, I guess you could say, like, you mean well, but you're just not good at communicating. You know what I'm saying? And then in college, it was like, I'm free to do what I want to do, which is probably when I gained the most weight I had ever gained. But I was so free, I didn't care.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And that felt better than me being thin and not knowing it. And you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I did things. It was like, well, and I always tell myself I'd rather be 300 pounds and happy with myself.
That's right.
Than thin and over here like, oh my God, if I get fat again, you know, right. Like whatever.
Driving yourself crazy. That's yeah, mentally. Yeah.
Yes. So I always tell myself, like, I never want to get caught up on my body again to the point where I'm like, you know, oh my God, or not seeing, like looking at pictures and seeing how thin I was in high school, but literally thinking that I was like 200 pounds. And I was like $150, so, you know, and it was just like, and then even in losing weight, people then, and this goes back to the self-worth component, because you'll never make anybody happy. Somebody always, so even like I lost a lot of weight in the last year, and it wasn't intentional, and it was a lifestyle change, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm about to go out here and, you know, I was like, no, I'm just living. But then people are like, ooh, you skinny. Like, you don't look good skinny. Are you sick? Are you whatever? And so realizing that you're never going to make them happy. You know what I'm saying? And I used to do, especially with my family, I did this thing. I always called it like the 8 Mile thing. Where Eminem would diss himself first or tell you everything that you're going to say about him. So then when you say it has no power. So I used to do that, like when I would come home to my aunts and stuff like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I know I put on some weight, what's going on with my hair, like I would call out all the things I know that they're out about me. So I'm like, so what would you like to talk about? What would you like to say? You know what I'm saying? And then they'd be like, you know, because again, living in the South, it is a different experience too, you know, staying firm in who I am. So when my family tells me they don't like my hair, I say, oh, well, I think it's beautiful. And I know so many people who like it.
Yeah.
When they still I should lose weight, I look at them like something really is wrong with you because I've lost a lot of weight. So that shows me like, and that proved to me like, it really was it was really them the whole time.
The whole time, yep.
Because if you can sit here and look at me now and say that I need to lose weight, then something's wrong with you. And
you know too, other people project their insecurities on people because they're insecure in their self and how they look. They want to project that on you.
Yeah. I felt like I was cheated out of being able to love myself earlier and really like taking full advantage of what I look like. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Especially in your youth. Like when I look back at those pictures, I'm like, dang girl, you was bad. Like, you know, you was, you know, but in that moment, not seeing it. So it was like, you weren't even you. You get what I'm saying? Like you weren't at your fullest potential. You were too busy worried about what everybody else was thinking, picking myself apart, that I wasn't just authentically just in this place, this space of joy and just all that I could have been, you know?
Yes.
And so that's the only thing I think that I sometimes, you know, when I look back, but now I'm getting back to that space and due, you know, time, it was just like, dang, you could have, you know, whatever, it been in so much joy if you weren't in so much worry, you know what I'm saying? And that's the only thing I do feel like that hindered me because I feel like I was robbed of that opportunity. Treated the way that you were treated, you wouldn't have had so much drive and ambition to make something of yourself because nothing was handed to you. You know, like you were always second guessed. You were always, people doubted what you would be able to do. You know what I'm saying? And you you drive hard to get it done, not just to prove people wrong or whatever, but for you, because something inside of you was like, but you can do this, you know? And it made me unselfish too, because when I started saying no, I realized that I wasn't as stressed out about things so much, and realizing that you don't have to be the one to do everything. Like the world's, and it's hard too, but it's like the world's not going to stop if you don't do it. And even sometimes when things do crumble, they needed to crumble in order for people to see sometimes your value, and sometimes on trying to figure out how to do it on their own, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's shown people the value that I do bring to the table, because if Nadia wasn't doing it, it usually don't get done, you know? But not feeling guilty about that, being like, well, you got to step up.
That's right. I love that. Yep, facts. That's all facts. that word no is a powerful thing, for real.
It's hard sometimes. You got to no.
But you know, like you say, you say no, and you don't back down from it, and you don't renege from it. Be like, well, maybe I can do it tomorrow. I said no.
I said
not doing it tomorrow. Not doing it next week. Find somebody else or do it yourself. Yeah, because people will continue to try to use you. You know, especially it will try to use you to their advantage also. So setting those boundaries are important, because because like you could attract someone who's toxic, and then and then you already dealing with something, or you going through whatever, and it just makes everything worse.
It does.
Setting that boundary in the sense of protecting your space and not having those toxic people. But you know that you have other people who like to be around toxic people, right? So sometimes people got to check themselves, because, you know, you got to keep our boundary from you.
I've had friends tell me like, oh, you're never going to go anywhere, so that's why I don't really feel like I need to put that extra effort into you. So you treat me like I'm an option.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so it was like, okay. And I'm the kind of person like, I will show you better than I can tell you. So sometimes it will take me a while to let go of something that is not for me, not serving me anymore.
Yeah.
But I have to realize that it's not serving me the way I desire to be served. And then I'll fall back. And so, you know, if they reach out, they reach out. And sometimes I'm not interested. If they reach out and they make amends and they are able to identify their errors, and then make active steps to work better in the way that they treat me, then we will work on, you know, reconnecting as a person. But if you can't, then I just keep you where you at.
So what words of encouragement would you like to give our sisters who are listening right now?
When you wake up one morning, or when you get dressed in, like today, like, okay, I look pretty, right? Take a picture of yourself and then post that picture up. So any day that you ever question what you look like, you can look at that picture and say, no, I'm beautiful. Because if you felt it in that moment, then it is such. It doesn't go away. You know, capture those moments that you feel good about yourself. Capture them. We go up around here taking selfies all day anyway. Why not use that to sit here and kind of go back and look at what you are and who you've become. And I also tell people to write done lists. We can beat ourselves up all day about what we have not accomplished, what we have not gotten done. But what better would it be to serve us on an inward level than to say, what have I done? Like, what have I done? What have I accomplished? You know, if you're still here and you have breath, you have the ability to accomplish more, and you have accomplished something. And if you feel like you haven't, then this is the time. And what is stopping you? Nobody's telling you to go out here and be the next Beyonce, you know, or the next Oprah. But find out how you can live an intentional life on purpose. If that's you sitting up here paying for the person's gas at the pump, when you go to the store and paying it forward, you've now connected a part of yourself to somebody else that has now blessed their life. You know what I'm saying? And know that it will come back to you. You know what I'm saying? But don't do it for the intentions of getting something back. Do another. My thing is, this life is about what you give out